Peppa Pig, Peppa's Frosty Fairytale. We've got Peppa and George. Hi guys. Let's have a look. I can see a snowman there, look. He's hiding in the Frosty Kingdom. Peppa's Frosty Fairytale. Tell us your fairy tale, Peppa. We ready? Once upon a time, it was a cold and quiet winter's day. Peppa and George were playing indoors and making lots of noise. Peppa, George, called Mummy Pig, why don't you look in your box of books and pick a nice story to read? That's a good idea, isn't it, Mummy Pig? Peppa and George searched through the box and pulled out their favourite books. They giggled with excitement as they looked through the pages. Then Peppa danced all over the living room, pretending she was in a fairy tale. A snowman, cheered George, holding his favourite book. Peppa and George loved stories. It's a snowman with a green hat and green gloves. And this looks like Ben and Holly, doesn't it? Do you know Ben and Holly? They're fairies and elves, aren't they? And there's an owl reading a book. That evening, Granny and Grandpa Pig came over to stay the night. Hello, Granny and Grandpa, said Peppa and George. Hello, little one, says Granny Pig, giving them both a hug. It's time for bed now, said Mummy Pig. Please, can Granny and Grandpa tell us a bedtime story, asked Peppa. Of course, Peppa, said Granny Pig. We'd love to. Oh, that's nice, isn't it? Once Peppa and George were tucked up in bed, Grandpa Pig showed them a beautiful snow globe. Then he began to tell a story. Once upon a time, he said, there was a cold and magical place called Frosty Kingdom. Ooh, it sounds magical, doesn't it? How do you get to Frosty Kingdom, asked Peppa. First you have to travel over the snowy hills, said Grandpa Pig. Then you journey through a deep, dark forest. Finally, you must climb a huge mountain until you reach the winter castle at the very top. I bet the Sugar Plum Fairy lives there, and the Snow Queen, said Peppa. Snowman, said George. Peppa and George loved Grandpa Pig's story. I wish we could go to Frosty Kingdom too, said Peppa, as she and George drifted off to sleep. Peppa's got Teddy, and George has Dinosaur, and Granny Pig has the snow globe with the snowman inside. In the morning, Peppa and George woke up to the sound of jingling bells. They peered through the window to find out where the noise was coming from. It's snowing, gasped Peppa, and Granny and Grandpa are outside with a big sleigh and 3 reindeers. 1, 2, 3. Jingle, jingle, jingle. Just then, Mummy and Daddy Pig came into the bedroom. Granny and Grandpa are taking us all on an adventure, said Mummy Pig. We're going to Frosty Kingdom. Frosty Kingdom was in Grandpa's story, said Peppa. We'll be needing these, said Mummy Pig, handing out winter coats and woolly jumpers. We're travelling by sleigh. Hooray, cheered Peppa and George, jumping up and down. They're so excited, and look, it's snowing outside. Everyone climbed into the sleigh and they set off. Which way's Frosty Kingdom, asked Daddy Pig. Grandpa Pig pointed far into the distance. First you have to travel over the snowy hills, he began. Then you journey through a deep, dark forest, said Peppa. Finally, you must climb a huge mountain until you reach the winter castle at the very top. That's right, Peppa, said Grandpa Pig. Can you see the penguin on the ice? He's got ice skates on, look. Woo! And this says, this way to Frosty Kingdom. After they went over the snowy hills and through the deep, dark forest, they started to climb the huge mountain. Are we nearly there yet? Asked Peppa. Suddenly George saw something move. Snowman! He squealed. This snowman. Everyone turned to see a snowman waving at them. Hello, said Peppa. We're on our way to Frosty Kingdom. Hello, snowman. Can you wave at the snowman? Hi. Peppa and George waved goodbye and the reindeers pulled the sleigh further up the mountain. They're good reindeers, aren't they? They're very strong. Up the mountain they climbed, up and up and up, until the sleigh reached a clearing and the reindeers stopped. Are we nearly there now? Asked Peppa. I can't see the magical winter castle. I think we may be lost, said Grandpa Pig. I'm sure it was this way. Oh no, Peppa sighed. What are we going to do? If only there was someone here to help, said Grandpa Pig. Yes, if only there was someone here to help. Oh! Hello, Peppa and George, a voice said. Look, it's Miss Rabbit, said Peppa. Actually, Peppa, I'm the Sugar Plum Fairy, said Miss Rabbit. You're on the right path. Frosty Kingdom is further up the mountain. This is so magical, cried Peppa. Frosty Kingdom this way. And a little hedgehog, and a little robin, and another little robin. The sleigh climbed higher once more and was nearly at the top of the mountain when, Welcome to Mr. Fox's official Frosty Kingdom shop, said Mr. Fox. Everyone hopped off the sleigh to take a quick look around. Daddy Pig loaded up a basket with sponges, telephones and wool. I'm sure these will come in handy at Frosty Kingdom, he said. Everyone piled back on the sleigh and they set off yet again. Finally, they arrived at Frosty Kingdom. We're here, announced Grandpa Pig. Peppa saw something sparkling up ahead. As they got nearer, she gasped. It's the winter castle! And there's the Snow Queen. Look, it's Miss... Hello, everyone, interrupted Miss Rabbit. I'm the Snow Queen. Welcome to Frosty Kingdom. Peppa and George waved and giggled excitedly. Welcome to Frosty Kingdom. I wish we could stay here, said Peppa. Peppa, this is our cabin, said Grandpa Pig. We're going to stay here for the night. Wow, cried Peppa. This is the best Frosty Fairytale adventure ever. Thank you, Granny and Grandpa Pig. Ho, 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 you're most welcome, said Grandpa Pig, smiling. Peppa and George raced inside the cabin and looked around excitedly. It's like we're in your story, cried Peppa. Maybe we are, said Grandpa Pig, laughing. Peppa loved Frosty Fairy Tales. Everyone loved Frosty Fairy Tales. All done.